Greetings, one and all. Once again it is I, your semolina of cinnamon, your vicar of very silly attitudes, the masturbator in fun underwear, and of course, your extraterrestrial Captain Kangaroo. Today I wanted to share a few pieces from my vast Star Wars collection. This is a 1/6 scale, fully articulated Imperial Walker. But what makes this piece particularly special is the fact that it was signed by legendary... What are you doing? You realize this isn't milking the movies, right?
I have your money.
Let's see the cash. It's about time.
Can I go?
Yes. Make sure your rent is on time from now on.
Yes, sir.
And enough with the hats.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's show. But remember, every person in heat has a story from hell that you have Yeti ears. All your hats with dew will glisten. And as always, have a debtor pay.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, the Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, and of course, your sommelier of sci-fi or cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, and of course, your pharaoh of physical media. And not to be outdone, your existential Mr. Rogers, that's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I am Robcasting at you, imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. This is Robservations, the show about something, episode 515. And boy, how much fun are we having today? 2 days ago, I came up with the idea of having an imagination connoisseur film festival that would start. We would open it up. You'd be able to download the entry forms from the website on October 1st. And it would run through, well, at least the entry phase would be open from October 1st to December 1st. And I just decided to throw it open. Imagination connoisseurs across the planet. And then, I have to say, I give this one up to Mike Bodden. He had the idea that why do we have to limit it to Earth? Why don't we call it the first annual Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseur Film Festival? And we open it up to anybody from across, well, the universe that might want to enter. Now, I think the odds of having somebody from, well, anyone of extraterrestrial origin entering a film into this film festival is, to be honest, quite astronomical. But who's ever done it before? What harm can there be? So, ladies and gentlemen, kind souls, gentle beings from across the 28 known galaxies, if you or anybody you know has ever wanted to make a film, beginning October 1st, you can enter it through December 1st into the first annual Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival. I'd made some rules. I even had rules last night. I changed them. That's my prerogative. You know why? I am flash dancing this film festival. Remember, I tell everyone, flash dance your life. What does that mean? Well, we're going to hark back to the Adrian Lyne opus, 1983 amazement that was Flashdance. And to flash dance something means you're going to take your passion and you make it happen. Just like Jennifer Beals did and her body double in Flashdance. I mean, Michael Nouri took his passion and made it happen, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's what we're doing with this film festival. You just think shit up and you do it. You make it happen. You flash dance it, ladies and gentlemen. 2 days ago, this thing didn't even exist. It didn't even exist. So we're asking people, by the way, it still might not exist. Who knows? Who knows if people are going to enter? But it is open to not only everyone across the planet, and I mean every shape, size, color, creed. I don't care who you are. I don't care what color you are. I don't care who you want to sleep with. I don't care what you believe in terms of a deity. You, all of you, you lovely human beings, you are all welcome. Everybody is welcome. Every skill level, it doesn't matter. But I don't care if you're a professional. I don't care if you're an amateur. I don't care if you're a first-timer. This is all about the creativity. Let's see what kind of movies you can come up with in 2 months. Maybe we won't have any entries. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I didn't think about putting on a film festival until 2 days ago, and now we are. And not only are we putting on a film festival, the preamble to that, the overture, as it were, is I decided, well, every great film festival has to have a film festival poster. And what better way than to have a pre-contest to the contest? So we are running a poster contest for our film festival posters. Now, I even made a video last night. I did a video around midnight, put it up, all the text that I wanted to appear on the poster. And I figured I wasn't going to say anything like, was somebody going to make a big logo for the name? Like, what was it going to look like? I had no idea. I just said I want, and yes, I know it was text heavy, but as Mike Bodden put it, it is a design. It's more of a, it's not just poster design, it's graphic design too. It's all of those things. And I didn't even know, again, would I get any entries at all? Would we get any? Don't know. Well, here's how it's going to go. Just like with the film festival, all entries are going to be judged by you imagination connoisseurs, you members of the Post-Geek Singularity. So when we get all the entries, and the entries end on October 1st, I will put up a poll, and you will vote on all of them. You'll vote on the posters, and whichever poster you vote for will be the poster that we go with. Because, hell, isn't that what this is all about? We want to create a sense of community. You Post-Geek Singularity members, you imagination connoisseurs, and the winner of the poster contest gets to be a judge. Gets to be a judge in the contest. And then, of course, we will own their poster, and we'll use their poster to promote the film festival, and throughout, we'll have it up all over the place. We'll send it around. We're even going to do press for this film festival. And basically, you know, it's open to everybody. We'll see what you can do. And I'm always telling people, look, you're carrying around, Steven Soderbergh is making Unsane, and he's making High Flying Bird with his iPhone. The first episode of this show, I just thought up, we went to Greg Smith's house to see his land speeder, and both Elizabeth and I had 4K cameras in our pockets. I said to Greg, hey, can we interview you? I don't think he really knew what that meant, but it turned into like a nice afternoon at his house where he took us through his cosplay, how he made his Boba Fett costume and his Rebel pilot, his Rebel flight suit from The Force Awakens. And then he showed us his 1-to-1 scale land speeder. We shot it. We put it up as a show. And I think the one of the undercurrents of this particular YouTube program is to foster the creativity in our audience, because I know it's out there. And so I put this up like, hey, we're having a poster contest. And you know what? Not 12 hours later, I have 3 entries. 3 entries into our poster contest. I'm going to show them up to you right now. The first one, this is Ian Samuel's entry into our poster contest, which is pretty cool. I couldn't believe it. I mean, he must have banged this out. I can't even imagine. But there it was. There it was, Ian Samuels. Now, I want to point out, Ian's in the UK. So there were people, obviously, that had a leg up because they were in the UK, so they were up when I posted this video. Most people in America were gone. Then our second poster comes from Stephen Foley. Look at this. Pretty cool. Again, I realize that I asked for a lot of text on the poster, but depending on how you choose to do it, I figured, you know, it's a movie poster. Text is small, logos are big. I didn't want to limit anyone's creativity. I just said, here is the text we want on the poster. And this comes from Stephen Foley. And then this next one, also from the UK, comes from Matthew, I think it's Harle, or Matthew Harle, Harle, at M. You can find him on Twitter at M Harle Designs. That's at M, capital MHARLE _designs. Also from the UK, came out with this one. And as you can see, I mean, this is a really nice work of design sensibility. So going from an announcement poster that's text heavy to something that is designed, I mean, it's very different. Depends what you want to use them for. Depends what you're going for. And really, it's all going to be up to you. You imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community, to decide. And I think that's what's going to be, that's where some of the fun is coming from. I think it's amazing. It's amazing. And we are going to have this film festival, and I now can announce we have celebrity judges, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I've put the feelers out to a number of people. I will be announcing who our celebrity judges are as we move along, but I'm very proud to announce the first judge, the first celebrity judge, is my friend Ashley Miller. Now, you might ask yourself, if you don't know him already, who is Ashley Miller? Well, first of all, Ashley Miller is the showrunner of the show that I'm currently working on for Netflix. He created it, but he's been my friend for a long period of time. As a writer, Ashley Miller has worked on, of course, the first movie he ever wrote, which I was instrumental in getting him the job, Agent Cody Banks. He wrote Agent Cody Banks. He was also a staff writer on Andromeda, the TV series Andromeda. He was a writer on Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. He was then a writer on Fringe. And moving on from Fringe, he was one of the writers on the first Thor for Marvel and X-Men First Class. And he worked on Lore, the TV series Lore. And he's been announced as being a writer on the remake of Big Trouble in Little China. And on Sarah Connor Chronicles, he was also the executive story editor, and he was a consultant on more of Andromeda. As a producer, Ashley has been a producer on Twilight Zone, the reboot from 2003, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, Fringe, Black Sails, Lore, and the currently unannounced Netflix series that I'm working on, the animated Netflix series. He created it. He is our first celebrity judge that I can announce. My second celebrity judge is filmmaker, documentarian Carrie David, who she was my fellow producer on Agent Cody Banks. She produced My Date with Drew, with now director Brian Herzlinger, whose career has exploded. Carrie has recently directed Breaking Their Silence, the documentary Women on the Front Lines of the Poaching War, and she is deeply ensconced in making her new documentary somewhere out on the other side of the United States. So she and Ashley, Carrie David and Ashley Edward Miller, are the first of our celebrity judges, industry judges that have vast amounts of experience. So our little 2-month film festival is certainly growing. And I'm going to be adding a lot of other surprising names to our judges. And of course, whoever wins the poster contest will also be a judge. So this film festival thing is really taking off. And so for those people who want to know, on our website on October 1st, you will be able to download the entry form. Now, there is going to be a fee. It's not going to be, well, it's going to be a fee. I don't know, $20-25 probably. I have to figure it out because we also have to finance this film festival too. But it's going to be interesting, and the winners are going to be getting cash prizes, and not like $25 either, like hundreds of dollars. And we'll see what we can do. But yeah, people are going to be getting cash prizes, and so far there is going to be what we are affectionately calling the Sally Field Lifetime Achievement Award that we are going to give out. We're going to throw open the semifinals to the internet at large. And it's going to be, the reason it's called the Sally Field, as you all know, is because whichever one gets the most likes wins that particular award. Now, I don't know if we're going to continue to call it the Sally Field Lifetime Appreciation Award. And maybe, I mean, we can. I'm going to get in touch with Sally Field because maybe she will endorse this and she'll give the award away herself. Perhaps. Who knows? I mean, she was Bandit's girlfriend after all. Did we not fall in love with her then? Did we not fall in love with her as Norma Ray? I know I did. I mean, you know, before John Cusack held his boombox above his head, Norma Ray, Sally Field, held a sign above her head to liberate workers. A little Marxist, but that's okay. That should be fun. Because you know what? I'm going to flash dance the shit out of this film festival. I'm going to take my passion and I'm going to make it happen. And hopefully you, imagination connoisseurs, will share in that passion. We'll all do it together because that's when things are most fun anyway, right? Although, as George Michael said, some things are best when it's one-on-one, which I do understand and believe as well. But in the case of this event, we're going to turn this into a fun time to also prove that you can just think things up and do them. You know, you can just make it happen. Like, why aren't you doing that? Flash dance your life, people. We're going to flash dance this film festival, and you will be witnesses. So that's pretty cool. It's getting more exciting as the days go by. And again, yesterday, no celebrity judges, no posters. Today, I've got 2 celebrity judges and 3 posters. Who knows where I'm going to be in 2 weeks? I put the feelers out. I mean, and we're getting some pretty. I mean, if you want some exposure to the motion picture industry, you want to see people that you would want to see your work. Well, the first annual Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival could be the place for you. Now, I understand you only have 2 months. It's a daunting task, and as you can see, you're probably going to be competing against some very talented people. Maybe. There is a possibility we don't get any entries. I don't know. I've never done this before. I've never thrown a film festival that I just dreamed up 2 days or 3 days ago, and then 3 days later, we're actually in the midst of it. But again, things open up. And how it's going to work is the movies are going to get made. The deadline is December 1st, and on December 15th, we're going to drop all of the semifinalists on the web, and they can be voted on for the Sally Field Lifetime Appreciation Award, the You Like Me, You Really Like Me Award. There's that, but we're also going to have all those semifinalists so people can watch them and view them. And on Christmas Day, we're going to have a show, probably pre-recorded, where I'm going to try and get all the filmmakers to say something about their movies and then make a big, long show that'll be edited together that will be playing all day that you can watch. And I'll just probably play it a couple times so you can get through and meet the filmmakers. And then on Boxing Day, on December 26th, we are going to have a live show. Elizabeth Gwendolyn Bell, the ace, the arbiter of cinematic excellence, and myself will be live giving away the awards. Probably showing the films again and hopefully giving away awards. The Post-Geek Singularity Award. There will be trophies, ladies and gentlemen. Trophies and cash prizes. Because why not? But you'll get the Post-Geek Singularity trophy. And it'll be fun. So there you go. There's more about this as it develops. But we're going to publish the official rules list and the entry forms on October 1st. And we will be doing it from October 1st through December 1st. So you have 2 months to get to work. So that's it. There you go. That's all I've got. So let's take a look at these posters again. There's Ian Samuel's poster. There's Stephen Foley's poster. And, you know, again, I'm really just quite blown away by by the creativity. And then we have our final poster here, the third of them that we have received, which I think is amazing. And again, this is from Matthew Hurl. I think it's Harl. Matthew Harl. Again, I don't know. He's at MHARLE_designs. He also out of the UK. Very exciting. But now let's get to the task at hand. So there was an article in The Atlantic 2 days ago that I've been reading. And it was by David Sims, and it was published September 14th. Hollywood's Tenet experiment failed. So as many of you know, Tenet came out 3 weeks ago, and it has passed over $200 million at the box office worldwide. Some films might think, well, you might think that's pretty good. Tenet cost $200 million, and to market Tenet, God only knows how much it cost to market. I don't know, but 100 million more, let's say. So the fact that it's only grossed $200 million, and this is Christopher Nolan. This was a film that when they were making the film, when they read the script, when it was in production, when they were looking at the dailies, I'm sure when the Warner Brothers execs they're like, this is going to make $1 billion. This is going to outgross Inception. And then the pandemic hit. So the problem with Tenet for the motion picture industry is that this movie needs to earn out $800 million, $1 billion in order for it to be at all profitable. Because what people don't understand is part of the budget of these movies, and the reason the Hollywood math is it takes 3 or 4 times what a movie costs to pay for itself. You also have to pay for things like studio overhead, which is something people don't take into consideration. When you're making an independent movie, every dollar you are able to scrounge around and get, I mean, whether you're looking under the pillows of your couch or whether you're borrowing grandmother's credit card, whatever you're doing, with independent cinema, most of the money that you get goes into the movie that you're making. Well, with a Hollywood movie, with a studio movie, not only do you have to pay for the production costs, but you've got an entire studio to support. And part of what goes into, studio accounting is they charge overhead to every production. That's why it's not just the movie. You're also paying for the secretary pool and the mailroom and all kinds of different things. So that's why you need 3 or 4 times what a movie cost in order to earn out, because there's a lot of other costs associated with movies. So here's the problem. When you're borrowing, as I've said on the show before so many times, the studios are not sitting on a pile of money. They don't have a bunch of liquid cash to throw $200 million at to make a movie. It's all borrowed, or it's co-production deals. The money is coming from all kinds of places, but studios are borrowing from banks. Banks are fronting them the money so they can make their movies, which means the studios expect to get paid back within a certain time, and there are interest payments that are incurred. So one of the problems with the pandemic is when you have a $200 million movie that suddenly couldn't come out when they thought it was going to come out, all of the economic models they're using, like, okay, we'll loan you this money for the 2 years it's going to take to make the movie. The movie's going to come out on this release date. We can start to see a return on our money by this time. So it's all that's what they're trying to do, and that's how it works. And normally when a movie comes out, unless it's a huge bomb, they defray the costs of a bomb by what other movies make or what their other businesses are doing. But a movie like Tenet was not that way. Tenet was supposed to be the foundational anchor of, say, Warner Brothers' slate for 2020. And unfortunately, now they've got Wonder Woman 84 that's been pushed. They've got Dune, which is probably going to get pushed. But the problem with Tenet is, because even the theaters that are open are at 50% capacity, if they're full, people aren't going back to the movies. They just haven't. It's not part of their mindset yet. And so they put Tenet out because they kind of had to, and it was kind of the canary in the coal mine. They wanted it to be great in terms of box office, and it hasn't done what they had hoped and bring back people to the movies. And also, to be fair, it's not a 4-star movie in terms of critical response. Some audience members love it, some don't, which leads me to believe I have yet to see it, but probably interesting. But this article that came out yesterday, Hollywood's Tenet experiment failed. Let's jump into this, shall we? Christopher Nolan's Tenet was supposed to be a boon for movie theaters, a light in the darkness after the coronavirus pandemic shut down cinemas for a month. Here was an original film from a beloved director and one of the biggest titles of our proposed postponed summer movie season. Surely this would be enough to lure people back to the big screen. Around the world, that's proven largely true. Over 3 weeks, Tenet has made more than $207 million globally, a healthy number given the circumstances. But in the United States, the Warner Brothers film has grossed less than $30 million since August 31st, a number so low that it's scaring other major movies off the release schedule. Now, the question isn't whether theaters can return to normalcy, I guess it's normalcy, but whether they can survive this pandemic at all. Tenet's lackluster box office overall performance has started a domino effect. Wonder Woman 84, a much-anticipated superhero sequel, bumped its release from October 2nd to Christmas, a clear sign that the studio Warner Brothers was shaken by Tenet's underwhelming box office receipts. Universal's buzzy horror remake Candyman was also delayed until sometime in 2020. October is now devoid of tentpole releases, and November has only 2. Marvel's Black Widow set for November 6th, and the latest James Bond film, No Time to Die, November 20th. Assuming those dates hold, and they may very well not, U.S. cinemas now have 2 months to keep their doors open, with Tenet as the only blockbuster on offer. Now, this is kind of brutal because, even the movie studios, if they're opening, and the movie theaters, if they're opening and people aren't going, they can't service 1 or 2. I have all kinds of reports. I was the only person in the theater. Well, this isn't good. It's not good. Their operating costs aren't even covered. They can't even sell enough boxes of hot tamales. And by the way, can I just say something? Every movie theater should sell hot tamales. Why they don't, I don't understand. They used to sell them. That was my movie food of choice, was popcorn and hot tamales. It's very hard to find hot tamales in the movie theaters now. But anyway, it's tough. You can't make it work. You can't make it work. When Warner Brothers announced its final plans for Tenet in July, I wrote that Hollywood was prioritizing worldwide grosses and treating American viewers as an afterthought. After all, many theater chains across the U.S. remain closed, as they had since March. But most states jumped at the promise that Tenet symbolized, and 44 out of 50 allowed their cinemas to resume operations, albeit with capacity restrictions. Against all odds, Tenet got a wide release, showing in nearly 3,000 theaters this past weekend. Yes, cinemas in major markets such as New York and Los Angeles remain closed, but after Tenet made a reported $20 million 2 weekends ago, the hope was that it'd post a similar number last week, a sign that audiences were returning to the movies en masse. Instead, it seems Tenet has only been enough to attract diehard film fans, people like myself who are happy to rent a whole theater to themselves just to enjoy the movie again. The shiny $20 million number that Warner Brothers reported for Tenet's opening Labor Day weekend turns out to have been a heavily padded figure. The film actually made just $9.4 million over the 3-day weekend. The rest of the grosses came from early preview screenings and sales in Canada. In its second weekend, Tenet made just $6.7 million. Normally, a drop of only 29% would be regarded by studios as a sign of excellent word of mouth, but Tenet cost $200 million to make and needs to gross more than double that to break even. Double that, try triple or quadruple that. Warner Brothers might be able to eke that number out worldwide over the next few months, but very little of it will come from the U.S. Tenet was the cinema industry's guinea pig, a way for studios to gauge audiences' willingness to return to theaters in every country amid a pandemic. The reality is that most of the world has handled the coronavirus far better than America has. China averaged 26 daily cases over the past 2 weeks, Japan 543, and Canada 681. Given that Hollywood can no longer count on one of its biggest markets, the U.S., it's hard to know what course studios should chart next. Releasing movies on demand, even at a marquee price to try and recoup costs, isn't workable for a film as expensive as Tenet or Wonder Woman. I think this is something that a lot of people don't quite understand. See, the problem is the studios, when they spend money, when they've already spent money on these large tentpole properties like a $200 million movie, they can't just do anything with it. Put it on streaming, because when you put something on streaming, because the money's already been spent and they didn't calculate it as being part of whatever was supposed to go on streaming, studios need that money. They can't not have that money. If they lose the money they were going to make at the box office, and in the case of Tenet, all expectations were between an $800 million, but let's face it, $1 billion gross now. That's what they were hoping for. That's what they were expecting, and that's what they were planning on. They were not planning on a pandemic. When they greenlit this movie 2 years ago, they've already gamed all this out. They already know what it's supposed to make based on who's in it and how the people that are involved. And this was a serious, serious letdown. By the way, whether you like Tenet or not, this is no fault of the movie. This is no fault really of the studio. This is no fault of Christopher Nolan. It's just the fault of where we're at. I mean, maybe the fact that the movie is a little cold and humorless or something. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment, but I've heard it is. That it isn't the crowd pleaser of, say, his other movies, or it's hard to hear, whatever. These are also concerns, but for the most part, it's a giant, big, handsome entertainment, at least. And the fact is, the movie has to make that kind of money. If you put it on a streaming service, there's no income at all. Now, how you have to figure that out is, okay, how do we justify the costs? I mean, Netflix is making a $200 million movie with the Russo brothers. I do not understand why on their platform they would ever try and do something like that. I mean, it really makes no sense to me. I don't want to see what happened to my beloved. I think, to me, the direct-to-video industry really harmed sort of the lower budget genre movie at the movie theaters. When I was growing up in the 80s, for instance, New Line Cinema was kicking ass. I mean, first of all, they're putting the Freddy movies in theaters, and then they're putting movies like Jack Shoulder's The Hidden. I mean, it was really cool seeing The Hidden in a movie theater. Sure, that might have been a direct-to-video schlock fest afterwards, but you're watching The Hidden, Jack Shoulder off of Nightmare on Elm Street 2. He also made Dawn's Early Light, it's just Dawn's Early Light, I think. Terrific made for cable movie. But The Hidden, it announces itself with a car chase in MacArthur Park, Ferraris going through smashed plate glass, Concrete Blonde Still in Hollywood blaring, I think, or maybe it's not blaring in that scene. But I went to the theater and saw that. I mean, direct-to-video sort of killed all that, the cheeseball movies. I mean, hell, I saw The Seduction with Andrew Stevens and in a theater. I mean, I would go see all kinds of... you can see Andy Sedaris movies in the theater. Not anymore. Those days are over. And I get it. I totally understand. But this movie can't be... You can't move a $200 million movie over to a streaming service. You can't, even with SVOD or PVOD, whatever you want to call it. They could never make enough money. They couldn't even get halfway, maybe even 20. They couldn't even get 25% of the way of the money they would need to come back to them by going directly onto a pay-per-view service, because I'll tell you why. We as people are not yet conditioned to buy a first-run movie for $30. I mean, yeah, now it's like, okay, Bill and Ted became a sort of a crusade. It's a feel-good movie, Bill and Ted 3. I don't know what the numbers are. I haven't seen them. But you can't put a $200 million movie on a streaming service. I mean, Netflix, that's why I don't understand. They're spending $200 million. What is that? How do those analytics work? Like, how does a $200 million movie translate over to how many subscribers? The people that are actually paying? Like, do they care? And see, here's the thing. Here's the real danger, at least the way I see it, in terms of movies. And I've seen this happen. We human beings are very quick to assign values to things that we like. Going to the movie theater to see a movie means the movie that's in the movie theater carries with it, because by the very nature that it's actually in the movie theater, it's given a sort of, that means it's Tiffany level, meaning, you get a blue box with a white ribbon. It's like the gold standard being in the movie theater. And the problem is, when all you're doing is watching movies on screens, which we do anyway, I understand. But if you put it on a screen, it doesn't matter whether you're watching YouTube, it doesn't matter whether you're watching the nightly news, local television, it doesn't matter whether you're watching a blockbuster movie. There's something very disconcertingly democratic to me about seeing everything on the same screen. When everything is on the same screen, how does it all differentiate yourself? Like itself? I watch YouTube videos on my same beautiful screen that I watch my favorite movies on as well. And it's weird that I play video games on. It's all the same screen. So when it's all the same screen, things aren't necessarily special. It's just what you happen to be watching. So if you're Christopher Nolan, you spent 2 years and you've made a movie like, what are we talking about? Tenet. That if you made that film and that's all you get is that screen. I mean, I always remember, I've said this before on the show, I always remember reading an interview or hearing a quote from Steven Spielberg. And people don't remember this, but back in the early days of home video, we're talking late 70s, but early 80s, when home video really started to take off, there was a lot of pundits and a lot of people in Hollywood that thought home video was bad for Hollywood. Now, I, as a 13-year-old kid, it was very apparent to me working in video stores. I mean, These were proto, like the Cro-Magnon video stores. But I was working there at 13, and one of the things, even as a 13-year-old, I would read these things and hear these things. I'm like, no, you guys don't get it. You guys don't get it. Now, Americans and people around the world are all programmers of their own film festivals. Once you, and for you younger people, imagine a world where you could not choose what you wanted to watch. All you could watch was what was in front of you on 3 different networks. Maybe you were lucky to have an indie station or 2 indie stations and a PBS station. So if you had 5, 6, 7, 8 channels, at least in the United States, you were stoked. But then you could only watch what was there, and you had to watch it at the time it was on. So if a big blockbuster movie was tonight on the ABC Friday night movie, if you're going to watch that, it was 8 o'clock at night. If it was a 3-hour movie or a 4-hour movie, and then it was 9 o'clock, it was shorter. But that was it, and then it was gone. So what happened with home video, and I watched this happen. I worked in home video from 80 to 88. So I watched this happen. I mean, I went from working in video stores, renting tapes and selling tape decks, telling VHS and beta tape decks, to being Laserdisc. I was a Laser Bob in Seattle, and I love my beloved Laserdisc. I couldn't get rid of my VHS tapes fast enough, but I watched the whole industry grow, and everybody became a movie fanatic. Like going in the early 80s, people that walked into video stores, you would think they were cocaine addicts going to visit Tony Montana. I mean, you just would lay those videotapes down and snort them up. I mean, if I could have chopped up VHS tapes and put fatty rails out on the asses of beautiful models, I'm telling you, I couldn't have done better business than they did at video stores. And one of the things about video stores that was so much fun, for me at least, was, my God, families would come in, and this is a byproduct, and it's something that you had to have been there. One of the great things about working in a video store in 1980, 81, 82, when it was all new, is people walked in to video stores and you were hit, as somebody who worked there, hit with waves of joy. Kids would walk in beaming from ear to ear. Mothers and fathers, and the way people would talk, it looked like people would smile so wide it looked like they were going to eat their own face. I mean, by the way, I just wrote that line in the script I'm working on, but it was it was so much fun to watch people be so happy, and the negotiations that would happen. Well, we could get this next week. I want to watch this now. I mean, it was great, and it was so joyous because it was new. We didn't take it for granted. You had to go somewhere, and then you had to get the tape and watch it and rewind it and take it back. It was like a ritual. It was amazing. Now it's like, just click it on. And it doesn't matter what it is. You're going to watch somebody's home tours, or you're going to watch cat videos, or you're going to watch Gone with the Wind, or whatever movie you're going to watch. It all comes from the same place. So it's democratized, but none of it's special. A movie is just the same as a YouTube video, is just the same as a cat documentary, is just the same as we're looking for houses in Norway or something. And I think that's sort of problematic. I think that look, we imbue meaning to everything, right? Well, nowadays, it's even me. I feel terrible when I'm watching something. I can just click it off in the middle. But I think one of the reasons that it's so weird, because at the end of the day, it ain't show friends, it's show business. It's not show culture. It's not show altruism. It's not show charity. It's show business. And if you're not doing good business, your shows ain't going to get made. And when you're making movies that are $200 million, they need to go into a theater. They need to go into a worldwide distribution network, and they need to make $1 billion. Otherwise, no one's going to make them anymore. No one's going to give Christopher Nolan $200 million. They're going to be like, hey, Chris, go back to your Memento days. Can't you do something that we can make for $10 million and shoot in 24 days? What's up? Why would you want to do that once you've made Dunkirk and Interstellar and Inception and Dark Knight trilogy? Why would you want to go back and make... I mean, it could be fun, but why'd you want to do that? So movie theaters going away are not good. If things were already looking bleak for American cinemas, the immediate future now looks catastrophic. This past weekend, the total domestic box office was less than $15 million. IndieWire estimates that sum amounts to $5,000 per theater, which isn't enough to pay for basic operating costs. As studios grow more skittish about releasing major films, those numbers will only dwindle. Tenet was supposed to be the industry's lifeline. For now, Hollywood has nothing else to pin its hopes on. Well, yeah. Actually, you know what? I didn't read this chapter, but I didn't read this paragraph. But anyway, you get the idea. I mean, I don't want to belabor the point. But it's just, and then there's something even more insidious going on, I think, that really, I don't know, scares me, which is this idea that people are just like, we don't need to go to the movies anymore. It's just going to show up on our screens. Why do we have to go? What a pain in the ass. You got to get in the car. You got to park. You got to pay for food. You got screaming kids. People are talking, using their cell phones. Why do we go back to the movies? Why bother? Well, I would say there's nothing better than that communal experience with fellow men and women and gentle souls and people that don't even know who they are. There are 100 different genders. You could be sitting right next to one of them. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You won't have a difference of opinion. You're not going to get into an argument. As a matter of fact, when you're at the movie theaters, you feel the love for everybody because everybody is in that theater along with you to have the same experience. There's nothing but love in movie theaters for the most part, as long as people aren't assholes. But you're watching films, you're sitting down with people you don't know, having a shared communal experience. I don't want that to go away. But, we'll have to see what happens. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about. So, there you go. There's a lot of people here. Yeah. Let's see. This first letter comes from Jason Webster. Jason Webster writes, "Hello, Robert. I hope yourself and the members of the Post-Geek Singularity are happy and healthy. I used to review Asian films, and I have wondered about your observations of Asian cinema and how the respective industries have grown within the past 2 or 3 decades in Japan, South Korea, and China." That's interesting. "As you have accumulated so much experience and knowledge from having worked in the industry, it would be great if you could please voice your opinion for the audience to hear at the end of this letter, as I've always seen this as an interesting topic. There have been a lot of wonderful films from Asia that have received theatrical distribution all over the world during this period. Numerous films for these respective film industries have shown a great level of sophistication and technical excellence, style, and storytelling. We all know that martial arts films have been a solid mainstay for Asian cinema for a few decades now, thanks to the films of the incomparable Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, and Donnie Yen, absolute legends of the subgenre. I was really pleased when Jackie was acknowledged for his lifelong and ongoing contribution to film with a much-deserved Academy Award just a few years ago. It should be noted the women who have contributed greatly to the genre: Cara Hu, the Brave Archer; Angela Mao, Lady Whirlwind; Yen Ki, Kung Fu Hustle; Bridget Lin, Bride with White Hair; Michelle Yeoh, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon; and most recently Zhang Zi, House of Flying Daggers; and Louis Yafei, The Assassins as notable examples. I apologize to all my Asian brothers and sisters for massacring your names. And I'm such a fan of anything that comes from Asia. Other Asian countries have seen the rise of their own performers that have contributed significantly to the genre, such as South Korea's Lee Bong-hun, Memories of the Sword, 2015, Kim Ok-vin, The Villainous, 2017, Thailand's Tony Jaa, Oing Bak, I love Tony Jaa, Yanin, Tonda, Raging Phoenix, Indonesia's Uko Wais, The Raid. By the way, The Raid, as we all know around these parts, The Raid is not called The Raid here. It is called The Rad. And the second film is called The Rad 2, even radder. Because, I mean, if you're having a terrible day and you're used to taking, Percocet, Zoloft, Wellbutrin, try watching the Raid movies instead. I'm telling you, if you want something that's going to make you feel kick-ass, the Raid movies are what you need. And also, to throw that in, there's since we're going to talk Asian films, another movie that always makes me feel good, Battle Royale. Whenever you talk about millennials or kids, throw in a little Battle Royale. There's a couple of great, I think I have 3 versions of Battle Royale, but do me a favor, don't watch Battle Royale 2 Requiem, all right? I know Kenji Fukasaku, who directed Battle Royale, one of his last films, Battles Without Honor and Humanity. He directed the Japanese sequences of Tora Tora Tora. I mean, come on. That dude's rad, but was he ever radder than Battle Royale? Telling you. I mean, I wonder if Dieter Bastian, with his love of the Hunger Games and J-Law, has he seen Battle Royale? Anyway, you should. Just to name a few. However, there are other genres in Asian cinema, and they're beginning to excel in. Action has always been regarded as a staple of Asian cinema alongside martial arts films. This is especially the case in Hong Kong through the films of filmmakers such as John Woo and Sui Hark, with films such as A Better Tomorrow and The Killer. The last 2 decades, and stuff like Peking Opera Blues. Peking Opera Blues was one of the first DVDs I bought. I went to Monterey Park, and I bought Peking Opera Blues, a Hong Kong disc of that. It was one of the first things I bought when I moved to L.A. The last 2 productions are high-quality action films are better or equal to the best reviewed by Hollywood studios over the past decades. Japanese films I love watching are, well, there you go, Battle Royale, Princess Blade, I own that. Shield of Straw, I don't have that. South Korea has seen the release of the great films in Park Chan-wook's JSA, Joint Security Area, Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, well, the whole Vengeance trilogy, which I have on Blu-ray, The Man from Nowhere, which is great, Choi Dong-hoon's The Thieves, and Jung Byung-gil's The Villainous. I like The Villainous due to the cinematography, editing, fight, and stunt choreography and performance by lead actress Kim Ok-vin. I consider The Villainous to be my favorite action film of all time. Really? Ooh, I'll have to get that. I don't own that. The film received a long and resounding standing ovation at the 70th Cannes Film Festival. I also really like, you know what? Since you're telling me this, let's go see. Do I have to go like 5-Star Laser or something? Since you're saying The Villainous Blu-ray, there you go, buddy. What the Blu-ray is only $12. Huh. Sold. Cha-ching. All right. An endless vengeance begins. I mean, look, man. Give me Asian women with weapons in their hands. I'm sold. I'll watch anything. I also really like Cold Eyes, which was co-directed by Cho Uk-suk. I'm killing these names. Kim Byung-so. China has contributed through Dante Lam's Fire of Conscience, Zhang Wen's Let the Bullets Fly. I love Let the Bullets Fly. Alan Yen's Firestorm, and Herman Lau's Shockwave. These films and martial arts films such as Wong Kar-wai's The Grandmaster. Look, as everyone knows, Wong Kar-wai is one of my favorite directors of all time. I love Wong Kar-wai. I mean, you know, Tony Leung in linen suits. Like, if I could be Asian, I would want to look like Tony Leung, and all I would do is wear his linen suits from In the Mood for Love. As a matter of fact, I would just walk around like Tony Leung and be him in the Mood for Love for the rest of my life. And how cool is it that somebody decided to put him in Shang-Chi? I mean, are you kidding me? This is why people are thinking. People are like, Tony Leung. And my God, if you guys don't know who he is, you got to watch In the Mood for Love. And you also have to watch John Woo's Hard Boiled. He's not tequila. He's the undercover cop. I mean, by the way, in my life, if I could be Tony Leung and just pal around with Chow Yun-fat for the rest of my life with guns, that'd be the best. And the Ip Man series have become widely acknowledged as the best examples of how to produce a good action film in terms of cinematography, editing, and stunt choreography. By the way, Ip Man 4, it's out. I have read numerous articles and seen countless videos that declare these films are equal or better to the films made by their Hollywood counterparts. The last half of the 20th century and the formative years of this new century saw the explosion in popularity of J-horror due to the commercial success by Hideo Nakata's Ringu, Takashi Shimizu's Ju-on, and Takashi Miike's Audition. My personal favorites have always been the, Shinuki Nagasaki's beautifully photographed Shikoku from 1999, Koji Shirashi's unsettling carved slit mouse woman. Ooh, I like that. And the Takashi Miike films One Missed Call and Over Your Dead Body. Though it should be noted that since the 1960s, horror is a genre which there have been a number of classics by Japanese directors, such as Jigoku, which I have, Kwaidan too. South Korea, Hausu. South Korea has really come of age in this period with some great offerings within K-horror, from which I love Kim Ji-woon's Disturbing A Tale of Two Sisters, Ah Byung-ki's Haunting Phone, Lee Woo-choi's Cello, Bong Man-dae's Cinderella, Hong Jin-na's The Wailing. The Wailing is dope. And I have that on Blu-ray. And zombie flick and future horror classic Train to Busan. This year has seen a welcome addition to the genre in the zombie flick directed by David Morantz, entitled Alive. If I had to choose my absolute favorite horror film from the two respective countries, they would be Over Your Dead Body and A Tale of Two Sisters. All of these films have displayed the hallmarks of fine filmmaking: class acting, atmospheric cinematography and production design, and strong stories that leave audiences engaged as they are emotionally invested in the characters. We are compelled to see films through to their conventional outcomes. It is worth noting, the decade has seen the release of quirky horror comedies versus splatter films from Japan, the most notable being Tokyo Gore Police, which I have, Vampire Girl versus Frankenstein Girl, and Gothic and Lolita Psycho. These films are deliciously over the top with the acting, effects, self-parody, and constant tongue-in-cheek cultural references and gore. However, these films are certainly not for everybody, hence their small yet devoted following. There have been a few good fantasy films released from Japan, including Ashura no Hitomi and the 100th Love with You. I feel bad to pronounce these names, so I'm Color Me True, the film adaptations of manga and video games such as Bleach, Full Metal Alchemist. South Korea cinema has seen the release of some good fantasy films. The most recent example has been Along with the Gods, The Two Worlds, and its sequel, Along with the Gods, The Last 49 Days. In fact, Along with the Gods, The Two Worlds is the third most viewed film in the history of South Korean film. However, there are other good fantasy films, including The Restless, The Taoist Wizard, The Influence, and Vanishing Time, The Boy Who Returned. What about The Host, brah? I love The Host. China has released some good fantasy films as well, such as Painted Skin Resurrection, Journey to the West, Conquering the Demons, The Monkey King, which is great, Legends of the Demon Cat, Xingfen Shen Zi Nai Zi, I can't even pronounce that. And Willow Yang, if you're watching, I'm holding my head in shame. This whole letter, I'm holding my head in shame. I should have had you read it, because I wouldn't be so embarrassed. While some may not have the same level of effects of Hollywood blockbusters, their sense of storytelling, acting, and wonderful production design with ornate sets and lavish costumes more than compensate. The smaller revenue stream generated by industries in Japan and South Korea compared to the U.S. have brought issues they have learned to overcome, such as budgetary constraints. They have continually held to the philosophy of never allowing effects to get in the way of a good story. Also, despite an increase in CGI effects, there's still a strong reliance on practical effects. Science fiction is the one genre which is intriguing, as it shows the growth experienced by film industries in these countries and the confidence the filmmakers had to produce such films, especially in Japan. In Japanese cinema, while such fare is usually reserved for adaptations of popular anime such as Shern and Space Battleship Yamato, Gatchaman, or the kaiju films such as the long-running Godzilla franchise, there have been other good Japanese science fiction films, including Pyrokinesis, Avalon, Returner, all of which I have. China has released such films as Shanghai Fortress and The Wandering Earth, which I saw in the theater last year. The opening up of the West to some degree through adoption of capitalist business model practices and the redrafting of trade agreements with countries like the U.S. has had its advantages, especially for the local film industry. The rapid growth of the industry in China due to an increase in both global popularity and Chinese and American co-productions has seen substantial rise in revenue to the local industry, allowing studios and to channel injections of funds into projects that have raised the standard of CGI effects over the last decade. Thanks to Ang Lee's multiple Academy Award-winning Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, period dramas and period action fantasy films have also risen in popularity. From Japan, there have been some wonderful films: Twilight Samurai, Shinobi Heart Under the Blade, Ichi, 13 Assassins, Sekigahara are my favorites. However, it should be noted that such films have been a staple genre within the Japanese film industry for decades due to legends such as Akira Kurosawa. South Korea has seen the arrival of some quality films, from which I declare The Duelist, A Frozen Flower, War of the Arrows, Masquerade, The Admiral Roaring Currents, Memories of the Sword. They're my favorites. China's come to the table with offerings such as Hero, The Banquet, Red Cliff. I have those on Blu-ray as well. And the other Mulan, Jinglama's Mulan, which also happens to be my favorite Chinese films. The films I've mentioned feature great cinematography, production design, costumes, and acting. If pressed to choose my favorite from each country regarding historical and period drama, they would have to be Ichi, The Admiral Roaring Currents, and Mulan. not the new Mulan. The films tell compelling stories with great acting, exquisite cinematography, lavish production design, and gorgeous costumes. It is really evident that the respective cast and crew of these films have the talent, dedication, and love of filmmaking to ensure everything that goes into making the best films they can. I found numerous romantic comedies from South Korea, such as Reversal of Fortune, 100 Days with Mr. Arrogant, The Art of Seduction, Pound's Beauty, All About My Wife, and Finding Mr. Destiny to be engaging and very entertaining. Such films have seen the ascent to international popularity and acclaim. For the directors, Japan has seen their share of releasing good romantic comedies that are equally engaging, such as Be With You, You Are the Apple of My Eye. Japanese cinema has also released its modest share of pleasing films within the genre over the last decade, with such films as My Hawaiian Discovery, Love and Goodbye, and Hawaii, Mixed Doubles, Mom Thinks I'm Crazy to Marry a Japanese Guy, and Love is War. Ong Lee is the prime example of good filmmaking coming out of Taiwan. His romantic comedies such as Pushing Hands and The Wedding Banquet set him up for a successful career at home in the United States. There are more recent examples of good romantic comedies made in Taiwan, such as Hear Me, Cha-Cha for Twins, Au Revoir Taipei. However, co-productions and Chinese and American studios tend to gather wide appeal internationally than solely local productions. And this letter is really, really long. Well, Jason, I'm going to cut that short because it's getting difficult to read, but not because it's a bad letter. But I want to thank you for writing in this extensive letter. I'm going to put this up on the website so everybody can read it, and you don't have to listen to me massacre these Chinese and Korean and Japanese names anymore. Jason Webster wrote that. I want to thank you for writing in, Jason. I have loved Asian cinema my whole life. I mean, you can't not. As a little kid watching not just kaiju films, but also, I love Japanese science fiction. Whether it was Ultraman or Super 7 or something like that, or, I loved the Shaw Brothers knockoff Inframan with Princess Dragon Mom. I mean, I've always loved... There is a definite sensibility in Korea, Japan, and China that we don't have in the West. And I don't know how to describe it other than there is a whimsy, even in the most horrific horror. And there's both a whimsy and then there's also a matter-of-factness when it comes to things like violence and sexuality. I mean, even though he's screwed with Japan's constitution and they have, you can't even show pubic hair or something, you have to blur it out. It's weird. But there is a frankness. It's just a different sensibility. And I think maybe I've always been attracted to that. That's why, look, movies you didn't mention, like The Handmaiden, that recently came out, or one of my favorites. I tell everybody to watch this movie. If you like, it's very Tarantino-esque. The World of Kaneko, which I also have. That movie kicks ass. If you haven't seen that, and then of course movies like Old Boy, obviously, and The Host, and Memories of Murder, which is getting a re-release. But there's just something about that sensibility. Like I always fall back on this example that I use all the time, but it's The Ring, Ringu, The Ring. Here's something I don't think an American could ever get away with. If you're, Gore Verbinski did when you remade The Ring, but it was already given to him. And this is the whole thing with The Ring that I. So you guys have seen The Ring, right? So you know that in The Ring. In the movie The Ring, there is a videotape that Sadako or Sadako from the Japanese version, a troubled girl. Her mind projected these images on a videotape. Hey man, we go with it, all right? So if you watch this videotape, right after you watch it, your phone rings, and the voice on the other end of the line says 7 days. Right? And then, of course, 7 days go by, and Sadako comes out of the TV and scares you to death. By the way, I think that the Gore Verbinski's remake of The Ring is still the most towering achievement in terms of bringing J-horror to America. It's fantastic. But so anyway, if you really were to think about that and break that down, so you basically have a girl that was possessed of an evil spirit, could project her, she was locked up in a well because she was bad. She was a demon or whatever. Now, where exactly is she? Like, you're dead Sadako or Samara. You're drifting in, I don't know, the Stygian depths of hell. Wherever you are, how do you know someone watched your videotape? Like, Do you have like some cosmic switchboard that like lights up so you know? And then, of course, you get their phone number wherever you are in hell. You've got your phone there in the afterlife, and you're like, oh, John Doe just watched my tape. So then you pick up your hellspawn phone and you dial up their number. Or maybe there's a switchboard operator in hell. I don't know. And you're like, give me this number. And then you wait till somebody answers the phone. And then it's like 7 days. And then you hang up. And then what do? Do you start a stopwatch to find out like how in 7 days, when do I walk through their TV and scare them to death? I mean, think about that. The most absurdity, only an Asian culture could come up with this craziness. But you know what? You believe it. When you're watching, whether you're watching the original Ringu or you're watching Gore Verbinski's remake of The Ring, it is none of this. It's the most ridiculous shit ever. You don't think twice. You never think to yourself like, wait a minute. So she knows I watched her videotape, unless she's got surveillance camera wherever. She's dead. She knows I watch her videotape, so somewhere wherever she is, she has a phone, gets my phone number and calls me, and then has a stopwatch and knows when to crawl out of my TV. It is totally absurd. But whatever the Japanese and whatever the Koreans and whatever the Chinese have, whatever the Asian culture has that allows them to come up with these deliciously wonderful concoctions that we could never come up with in the United States. People would be like, Rob, there is no verisimilitude in what this girl Samara is trying to do, or Sadako is trying to do. I mean, come on. She can't even see with all that hair in front of her face. I get it. But there's there's an inherent whimsy that I've always loved my whole life about Asian films and Asian culture. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. We don't have it in the United States. We don't have it. That's why they keep trying to say, like, yeah, Christopher McQuarrie is writing a script for Space Battleship Yamato. I don't think we'd buy it. I think the first thing a studio would say as you're developing Space Battleship Yamato, somebody would come in and go, does it have to be a World War II battleship? Like, can't we just make it a new spaceship? Why does it have to be a World War II battleship? And of course, if it's being made in America, it's not like they're not going to say like, well, so I guess it has to be the Arizona. You can't have it be the Yamato. You know that's going to come. But there's something what Matsumoto Leiji was doing by putting trains and boats in the sky and making them spaceships. That was whimsical too. Miyazaki, Howl's Moving Castle, the castle itself. Can't do that here. So I've always been a fan of that. And I want to thank you for writing this letter in, because what a great letter this is. So thank you for that one. Who's next? I don't know. Omar94 says, Rob, one of the toughest things for a filmmaker to do is promote a movie which did not turn out well. I mean, they can't tell people beforehand something like, oh, I think it sucks, or I think it's a load of crap. But I wonder how they deal with that, since they pretty much have to lie, so to speak, since they have to promote the movie. It's only after the movie releases that people involved will flip their opinion and say it wasn't that great. Eddie Murphy has done that for some of his movies. He called The Golden Child a piece of shit after it came out. What? I want the knife. I love The Golden Child anyway. Saying the original and more serious script was far better. The movie was originally described as Raymond Chandler with supernatural elements, with Mel Gibson in mind to star, but Eddie Murphy was cast and it was rewritten as a comedy. He praised Beverly Hills Cop 3 before it came out, saying it was infinitely better than the second film, but later bashed it after it came out, calling it the worst in the series. Now, granted, I'm not an actor or a filmmaker. I don't know what it's like to be in that position, but it's definitely something I would have a hard time doing. Thanks, and live long and prosper. Well, Omar, let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you a secret. There is an element of self-delusion that goes along with making movies. You have to be deluded to even attempt the process, which is why I can't wait to see what our imagination connoisseurs come up with in our film festival. You've worked so hard on movies, so many hours, so many people are putting their all in. It's inconceivable that it's not going to be great. I mean, maybe you kind of know if there's an actor who's being a dick on set, but even then, you never know what they're going to pull out in editorial and post and how they fix things. But everybody wants their movie to be great. Nobody ever wants to think their movie's bad. And of course they're going to promote it. And, you know, if history deems it otherwise, it's a bummer. But for the time being, part of your job, you know, actors who work for studios are contractually obligated to put on a happy face and go in and promote their movie. It might be painful for them when they've seen it and it turned out to be, you know, a major suck fest. But they have to do it. They have to do it. It's part of their job. And I don't disagree with it. And, you know, if you look on IMDb, pick your favorite movie, the movie you think's the best movie in the world. There's some asshole who said they hated it. It's overrated, 1 star. Always. So, you know, movies are, I think there's an objectivity to great art and great movie making. I don't think it's entirely subjective. I think a movie itself can be excellent, whether the person realizes it or not. But, it's tough. It's a tough thing. Electron Star Collapse is here. Hail Viceroy and the Post-Geek Singularity. You set a challenge yesterday to create a short film before the end of the year. I'm intrigued. I can't say that I'm in. Why not? Say you're in. Go do it. Flash dance that. Take your passion and make it happen. And we'll have something to present, but I'm willing to try putting something together. My work situation makes things difficult as I drive a diesel rig and I have limited downtime and only 4 days at home after every 3 weeks. Bruh. Come on, my sister. You totally can, you're on the road. You could make a movie in your rig. I mean, think about the production value. You know, what if you made some paranoid repulsion where, like, every time you stop at a truck stop or something, there's people watching you, you know? I mean, it'd be great because you could just take your camera out and point it at them and they would look at you crazy, so you get that googly-eyed stuff, but you like, what are you doing? Why are you pointing your phone at me? And you could do that, and, man, come on. I want to see a road picture. Make a road picture. This actually makes me think about a video production class I took during my first attempt at college. It was a fun elective, and I did learn about how difficult it could be to get projects off the ground. I had mixed experience when working on a group project. The first time, we came together and created a 10-mile-per-hour car race that led into a car commercial. What was also interesting about that project was that we each had to turn in our own edit, so we would end up with a totally different outcome with all the same footage. That was my final at USC. Where I was disappointed in a group project came from a time when we were matched with different people and came up with a collective script, and then the guy who was basically the director of the project left me in the dark for the rest of the production. We were supposed to film scenes but kept getting closer to the deadline with the response of soon. Finally, a few days before the deadline, I was asked, "Are you ready to film after class today?" I replied, "No, I have to be at work after class today. I also have to be at work after class tomorrow. This is why I've been pestering to get the shots done earlier." You know, that happened to Elizabeth since she's been going to school. It never changes. Needless to say, a clear production schedule with everyone involved is an important asset and crucial to the success of the project on time. However, my biggest problem was getting people who weren't assigned in the class to cooperate with projects. I wasn't well paid at my job, so I'd be lucky if I could bribe some people to help me at the cost of a case of Miller High Life. Man, that's working cheap. Some of these people clearly didn't care about my effort, so they would purposely deadpan their line delivery or just flake when I needed some cooperation in getting some shots taken. Yeah, I feel your pain. I've been there. I ended up with only the introduction for one project and a bunch of stick figure inserts to make up for the lack of footage for another. I actually had the most luck with making a beginner's instructional video for the arcade game Dance Dance Revolution. For those unaware, it's a game where you step on arrows on the ground when the corresponding arrows reach a specific point on the screen, all timed to music. I had the cooperation of a local arcade to let me film there, a few friends showing different skill levels to be caught on camera, and no major direction for the performers except play the game and let me catch it on camera. I then created some custom animations and captured some in-game footage and threw some narration on top. One of the arcade managers actually was interested in playing the film in their arcade, but was afraid of violating copyright laws if they were to see public exhibition, especially for the music used. Just in case people are afraid that I cheated on the project by using copyrighted music, we were very much encouraged to make use of things like this to make a better product in the end. A few of my friends in the group project, which I wasn't a part of, created a fun mockumentary of the time Godzilla attacked Fresno, California. Turned out really well, considering the use of a plastic action figure and some shots of downtown. They even animated a beam attack and used some of the score from the original movies to add to the effect. It's a great experience when you can actually complete a project, so I hope to come up with something to contribute, just like I hope to see others contribute. But I need to ask you the ground rules. But I need to ask about the ground rules you expect, Rob. I'm pretty sure violations of intellectual property are thrown out. I have production software that I've purchased over the years for music creation and video editing, so would this be an unfair advantage, and should we try and stick with free software? Should there be no music, even if original? Should visual effects be minimal or practical except for transitions? That is a good question. Here's the thing. You can do anything you want in this movie that you're making, anything you want. But it has to be all original material. There's no copyright material, so you can't make a fan film. No Star Trek fan films. And I changed the 10-minute limit. We're going to make it unlimited. It can be as long or as short as you want. And I don't care what software you use. Some people have phones, some people don't. It doesn't matter. All that matters, here's the thing about movies. Here's a lesson everybody should learn. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter. It's all that matters is what's in the proscenium of the frame and the stories and the characters you're showing us. That's all that matters. You know, you have people that have made $200 million flopperoonies for the studios, and then you've seen a movie that somebody makes for $500,000 or $1 million that touches you and moves you. All I care about is the finished film. However you get there, up to you. Up to you. I know you said runtime couldn't exceed 10 minutes, and I needed at least two people to talk to each other. You know what? I've taken those out. No. All that I expect from these movies is that it's a narrative. You have to tell a story. It's not a documentary. It's a fictional story that you're telling. I don't want to limit anybody's creativity. They can be as long as they want. It can be as short as they want. I don't care. You can do anything. On another note, one of the things I do during my drives, other than listen to Robservations, is listen to audiobooks. I know there are some purists that prefer ink to paper for true reading, or that prefer ink. I know there's some purists that prefer ink to paper for true reading, but I've been able to get a decent amount of books covered while my eyes have to be on the road. I made sure to read Dune, Dune Messiah, and Children of Dune. I took a pause on the series to try listening to other works like Robert E. Howard's Conan the Barbarian, but I love Frank Herbert's work. I might have missed something, as I feel like there were some changes between books that are explained through exposition, specifically what happened to Duncan Idaho in the first book. Well, yes, and he comes back altered. Still, I cannot recommend enough that people at least read the original book. Me too. I look forward to the new movie. I think Villeneuve is the perfect director for the job. The only other person that comes to mind that could possibly do it justice is Alex Garland after seeing his work on Annihilation and Devs. As a fan of both Frank Herbert's book and David Lynch's movie, I appreciate that the trailer chose the Gom Jabbar scene to showcase, as was a powerful moment, but you're absolutely right that newcomers will be completely lost with Why Do I Care? And I love me some prog rock, but I wasn't too keen of Eclipse playing in the trailer, and I'm one of those weird people who do the whole Dark Side of the Rainbow viewings of Wizard of Oz. I guess if you're going to use pop songs, it was either Eclipse, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, or King Crimson's Epitaph, but I felt the music just seemed out of place for the distant future setting. And to anyone who was upset with the change of Leah Kynes from a white male in the Lynch film or in the book to a woman of color in Villeneuve's movie, you obviously didn't read the book. The character may be important, but the change by no means is exactly a victory for woke culture. In fact, I feel like the gender change may have potential ramifications if they choose to adapt Children of Dune, but I don't want to say why for those who don't know the story. Anyway, sorry if my ramblings are a little incoherent. The constant smoke exposure for the past few days is giving me a headache. Stay safe, everyone, and I hope to see everyone's films at the end of the year. Don't let the smoke collect in your lungs. Wait, that's not it. Don't let the stars collapse on you. Well, thank you for that. I love that Electron Star Collapse. Tell us more. Tell us more. Calvin Bose is here. Calvin said, Dear Rob, this letter is a continuation of my James Bond books and films in the order of the journey. When John F. Kennedy wrote a list of his favorite all-time books, you may be surprised that this one is on the list. From Russia with Love, published in 1957, is the book, and why not this one? It's an awesome read. The book is so much different from the others. For one thing, Bond is not in the first third of the book. The plot involves Smersh and a plan to kill Bond in a way to cause a scandal for England. In this story, an ugly woman named Rosa Klebb gets beautiful Tatiana Romanova to help by pretending he's in love with Bond, pretending she's in love with Bond, and tell MI6 she wants to defect. In exchange, she will provide the Spectre decoder. Smersh also uses a man named Red Grant who loves to kill, especially on a full moon. It's the second third of the in the second third of the book, Bond is sent to Turkey to meet fellow agent Darko Karen, and the two develop a friendship. The adventure takes us to a gypsy camp in the sewers of Turkey, and last, aboard the famous Orient Express. This book I will highly recommend, and it has a great cliffhanger ending. The next book will be Dr. No. Tell us, Rob, have you read these books? And if not, what are you waiting for? I have read these books, Calvin, but so long ago. I read all the John Gardner books, too. Because you kind of have to. As a Bond fan, you have to read all the books. You really do. You can't not read the books. So, you have to read them. Eric Kochi is here. Eric says, do you remember the first season of The Orville, episode number 7, called Majority Rule? YouTube has become that. It's not about truth, but about truthiness. It doesn't matter what the facts are, but about which monkey screams the loudest. Google that and see what comes up. I admit sometimes I do troll you. The Steve Bannon Freakazoid comparisons, and I do have some others, but I need to keep on subject. The thing is, I can't post anything that interferes with the worldview of Nerdrotic or Doomcock. Let's take, say, the fires in California. Yes, the fires are part of the life cycle of California, and there's always been fires. Only in the last 5 to 10 years has smoke gotten so out of control that events have been canceled in the fall. There have never been fires that created smoke so bad that the smoke is on its way eastward to Washington, D.C. As I said, YouTube isn't about truth. It's about catering to the base people and growing your subscriber base. You have discussed the problem with criticism of cuties, yet your partners still churn out red meat diatribes to ist and phobe audiences. There's an old saying, what is popular is not always right, and what's right is not always popular. It's clear that your moderators and a significant amount of your base is for what is popular. I suppose people have forgotten about Season 1, Episode 7 of The Orville and what it was saying about the post-truth era we live in. Yeah, I mean, I like that episode a lot, but I think, it's very funny when people troll me online or come after me, and people come after me hard, like they're particularly unkind. And I understand. I mean, if you think I'm a douchebag, what's interesting, people are like, Rob, you're just a douche. Fuck off. Like, I don't have a problem with people do that, but they go after you with the intent of dredging up stuff from your personal life or your professional life they know you care about, and they besmirch those things. It's really interesting. Like, people aren't content to just say, oh, you're a douche, Rob. No. They'll pull out stuff they know that matter to you, and they'll go after you there. And my wonder about that is always, why? Why do you want to do that to a fellow human being? Like, if I have a differing opinion about a Star Trek franchise thing with you, you want to go attack me personally? It's very odd. We live in very strange times. I don't know what to do about it. But you're absolutely right. This one comes from Joe Lemieux. Greetings, Mr. Burnett. I noticed you're having a film festival. I accept the challenge, and I plan on submitting Insurgent, a short film that I wrote and directed. You better not have played it anywhere else. This has to be a universal premiere. The more I watch your show, the more I feel we're both cut from the same cloth. I apologize if this is long-winded. I was born in Quincy, Massachusetts in 1968 and grew up a fan of classic horror and sci-fi. The original Star Trek, Twilight Zone, Planet of the Apes saga, creature features on Channel 56, and reading famous monsters of Filmland magazine. Seeing Star Wars in 77 forever changed my destiny. I became a total fan of anything created by George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Watching movies in the 1980s became the fuel to one day make movies. I've been making independent films for 29 years. I first took the leap into film in 1994, discovering... Pardon me. How can I not read this? I first took the leap into film in 1994, volunteering as a PA on Stephen Jack's Never Met Picasso, which led to other PA gigs. In 95, I took a train cross-country from Boston to Los Angeles. It took 6 days to get out there, but it was totally worth it. To quote Joe Gillis from Sunset Boulevard, I wanted to take a crack at Hollywood. I attended a Son of Famous Monsters of Filmland. That's a convention, which, as a lifetime geek, was amazing. To me, it felt like entering the Emerald City. There was even a couple of munchkins, too, meeting Joe Dante, John Landis, Ray Harryhausen was a thrill. I also had dinner with Forrest J. Ackerman, a.k.a. Uncle Forey. I met Ray Bradbury there and later hung out at his house. He wasn't able to survive. So 6 months later, I returned to Quincy. I wasn't able to survive. I thought you meant Ray Bradbury wasn't. So 6 months later, I returned to Quincy, and a year later, I attended Full Sail University to get my associate degree in film and television production. 3 years later, I had an interview with Lloyd Kaufman at Troma, but wasn't able to afford rent even in Hoboken. I returned to Quincy to form my own production company, Ion Spire Productions, for which I produced and directed 2 feature films, Creeping Paralysis and Veil of Blood. Creeping Paralysis was shot guerrilla style, a.k.a. without permission, at a huge warehouse when I was the security guard there. I shot the ending first in case I got fired. Nicely done. Veil of Blood took 6 years to complete, and we had a midnight premiere at the Coolidge Corner Theater, complete with hired protesters out front with picket signs. In 2012, I produced and co-wrote my third feature, The Stoop, A love letter to the black and white films of Billy Wilder and the French New Wave. It won me my first award for Best Screenplay at the Shawnee Film Festival. Since then, I've been shooting shorts and formed a new production company, Dream Apex Pictures, LLC, with fellow filmmaker and friend Michael Neal. I'm currently producing a creature feature for the new streaming service coming out of New England called Pivot. It's called The Other Side of the Mountain, or The Other Side of Midnight, with a horror hostess named Ursula Grimsworth and puppet co-hosts of Wilton and Wilmouse. Dream Apex is the production on an adaptation of Lovecraft's Sisyphus, which we hope to have done after the COVID-19 pandemic is over. You're totally right. People who don't know how to make movies think it's about making money. Unless you're a studio, money is not the driving force. We make movies because we love movies. I know you love physical media, so I'd be more than happy to send you DVD copies of my films. I'd love to. Keep up the great work on your show. It continues to inspire me in creating these strange times. Joe Lemieux. Joe, what a great letter. I mean, I hope you continue shooting and doing what you need to do. I'm kind of back in it, working on a project. I'm really having a good time. Well, let me jump over and see what you guys are saying, because I haven't done that yet. What are you saying? I don't know. Dun 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 dun. Back. Willow is here. Willow says, speaking of Ridley Scott the other day, even though this wasn't his best movie, I'm most impressed by how he was able to hire Christopher Plummer for all the money in the world on such short notice, reshoot all of the scenes in supposedly just 8.5 days, have the movie finished on time for its original release date, and nab Plummer a Best Supporting Actor nomination at the Oscars. That was pretty incredible, in my opinion. Well, if you think about it, the tools of the trade now, when you're not shooting film, you're shooting digitally, and you can process things and do all the work. You'd be surprised. You can do all kinds of things. So it was incredible that he did it, though. Julius Goodwin sends in. Oh wait, no, that was everything. And you're right. I mean, it was an incredible feat, but not totally unexpected, because it's definitely something that a good filmmaker can do, and they did it. And the technology, the editorial technology, even if you have a full sound mix, you can drop something in, you only have to mix those sounds. I mean, there's stuff, it's amazing what technology can do. Julius Goodwin, who sent me a funny video, says, I hope you enjoyed the whole why beer is better than women video I showed you earlier. I figured you could use a laugh, even though I would advise against showing this to Miss Elizabeth or any other woman, honestly, for that matter. I agree with you. That's not something I would necessarily show to another woman, but I chuckled. It doesn't mean it's not funny. Star Wars Rocks sends in a tip and says, it's my birthday today. Well, Star Wars Rocks, happy birthday to you. Stubble McShave says, do you think the production budget of Tenet includes any salary for Nolan since he got 20% of the earnings? How much bigger would the production budget have been if his salary was baked into the budget rather than taking the earnings? Oh, I think he got both. I don't think he just got first dollar gross. I think he got paid and then he got first dollar gross. So he got both. Stubble goes on to say, I think Wonder Woman 84 would have been a better choice to bring back people to the cinemas since its primary audience is younger. Young people are more likely to get back into theaters compared to old audience of Tenet. I agree. I agree with you. I think they should have gone with a more mass appeal film. I think you're absolutely right about Wonder Woman. I think it would have done more business. Anonymous says, hi, Rob. With the poor reception, any controversy aside, to Mulan in China, do you think Disney will want to make some script changes to Shang-Chi to increase box office potential in China, or do you think better marketing in China would be sufficient? I don't know. I found it weird. Maybe Mulan's dubbed, Mandarin Cantonese, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't wait to see Shang-Chi, but the problem is, when you have if our actors, if Mr. Liu can speak Chinese, but there's no reason to think he can, you could work something out, but it's tough. I mean, these language barriers are tough. I think it was odd. I really think it's odd that they, they did what they did. I totally lost my train of thought. I'm as I'm doing this, I have my head has started to pound. That's why I'm kind of off today. I don't know why. Probably because these glasses, these terrible glasses. But what I was going to say is, the language barrier, it's just weird. Like, over here, we're making movies about Chinese or Asian folks, but they're speaking American English. I mean, it works in Crazy Rich Asians or something, but it's bizarre watching Mulan in English for me, especially as somebody who grew up watching Chinese movies and Korean movies and Japanese movies. It's weird to see a movie that's populated by an entirely Asian cast speaking in English. I'm like waiting for the subtitles. Why aren't they there? I mean, it's so weird, but I think that might have been part of the problem. Gerald says, why did Tenet fail to draw a crowd? It was not a good movie, incomprehensible plot, hard to hear dialogue, and characters that the audience could care less about. It would have flopped without the pandemic. Well, I've heard that. I think you might not necessarily be wrong about that, and I think Christopher Nolan has some of the blame. I really do. I really do. You might be right. Absolutely. Senor Ashish says, I miss the old intro of you saying, well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. I'll do that. Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I. I can do that. Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. You know, it's just a new thing. I don't know how I like starting with the pictures, frankly. Let's just try something new. But thanks for that, Senor Ashish. And thank you for always speaking so eloquently on the internet. Julius Goodwin says, I just want to run this by you, and of course it won't happen without your approval, but I was thinking to help stimulate participation, I would offer the top 3 entries a prize. I'll pay $200 for first prize, $100 for second, and $50 for third. Thoughts? Well, Julius, okay, I'll tell you what. First prize, second prize, $50 for third, that's no fun. Because we're not really going to give first prize. We're going to give prize for things. Like, we're going to give best. So I'll take you up on your offer. But I think that we should come up with you need to come up with a special, whatever your prizes are, $200 for first, $100 for second, and $50 for third. But we should come up with some cool imagination connoisseur related topic. Like, you could win based on, I don't know exactly, but I love this idea. I'm totally going to take you up on it. But we should come up with specific, like, not necessarily first, second, or third, like best direction, best cinematography. We should come up with something else, like I don't know, whatever the movie's about, best use of this, or some kind of transcendent award. But let's take you up on that. I think it'd be great. Look, the more money we can give away on this show, on this film festival, the more we make it worth, entering. Why not? But let's do it. Lars Leonhard says, I absolutely love Wong Kar-wai. 2046 is my favorite film. I once attended a master class with Chris Doyle. Wow. I binged Kar-wai's films when I lived in Paris. That'd be the place to watch him, too. 2046 is an interesting movie. And I don't love 2046. I always want to love 2046, but I don't. But I still think it's good. I mean, I'm a huge Wong Kar-wai fan. Jason Whitcomb says, Rob, how difficult would it be for Hollywood to do a live-action Star Blazers, Space Cruiser Yamato, or any of the Force 5 anime? I have Force 5 here. It's tough. Verisimilitude is hard. How do you do that? It's really difficult to do that and get those things working. I mean, that's why. It's very hard, and I think a lot of it has to do with the sensibility. You want to do Space Battleship Yamato correctly, you bring it to America, and people are going to be like, why do you have to refit a sunken battleship? Why not just build a spaceship? Why not just do that? That's the first thing they would ask, and I think that's problematic. I mean, I got the Star Avengers, a.k.a. Getter Robo G, right up there. I love them. I would love them to do more of that. I'd love to see a Mazinger movie. Why don't we have one? At least we do if you go to Asia, but we don't have one here. Will N sends in a tip and says, The Grandmaster is a beautifully filmed movie. Wong Kar-wai. I would say the fight scenes in Ip Man series are better choreographed, but The Grandmaster is a better cinematic experience. It's unfortunate many don't see these films, but streaming portals have open options. I thought you were going to make some Avengers joke, but you're absolutely right. Look, I agree with you 100%. I'm in. And I love it that Netflix is increasing their foreign film presence 100%. Jason says, Rob, remember back in 97 when Air Force One was hijacked and crashed into NYC when Manhattan was a supermax prison and an ex-soldier and prisoner was sent to rescue the president? And remember the tapes that were funnier than Trump's tapes? Wild. I do. I remember that. Because, Snake Plissken learned how, he got into Leningrad. He knew how to get in quiet. So there you go. Mark C. says, Asian science fiction we're not including is Natural City. I like Natural City. Natural City's good. I agree. I agree with that. But again, I think a lot of Asian science fiction is imbued with that sense of whimsy. You don't see a lot of, have we seen the Japanese or the Korean or the Chinese Blade Runner yet? Something like that, or 2001 yet? You never know. Double Crit sends in a tip and says, hello, Rob. I know you and your buddy don't really like direct-to-video DC animation, but you might want to check out Man of Tomorrow. It's the start of a rebooted universe with better animation, better waiting for the characters, and some actual heart. I'll watch that. I'd absolutely watch that. For sure. Jason Whitcomb comes in and says, I always loved you. One of my favorite lines from John Landis is the Blues Brothers. Question, how did Landis do the famous cop car drop in that film? Was it dropped from a copter over the skyline, the Chicago skyline? It's an amazing shot. I would imagine so. It was dropped from somewhere. That's all I can think of, but it is an amazing shot. It's great. But I don't know exactly. I'm sure, is it not on the Blu-ray? I'm sure they would have some kind of a behind the scenes, or maybe there's something on YouTube. Stubble says, when looking at more info on the immigrants and the new land on IMDb, I saw that Troel was the co-writer and the director, the cinematographer, and the editor. Is it common for one person to do all of those things? Yes, it's very uncommon and not common, but it's become more commonplace now because of the technology that's available to you, which is, it's important. Very, very important. Jason Whitcomb says, Robert, question, when did Eric Roberts stop having a real film career? I mean, when I first saw him in King of the Gypsies, I saw that movie at the John Dance Theater, I knew he was a powerhouse. He's great in Pope of Greenwich Village and Star 80. Wow, what happened? I think with Eric Roberts, you get a little full of yourself. You kind of go off the rails, and he developed I think, probably a drug problem, but then he overcame it. I love Eric Roberts. I really do. Pope of Greenwich Village I saw 5 times in the theater. I thought it was great. I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. So, yeah. But I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. He's still making movies. Maybe he was derailed after he was in The Specialist. But you never know. Double Crit is here. I'm not sure if this question makes sense. But what's your favorite decade of movies in terms of the popular style and tone of films of that era? To me, it's the 90s, the heyday of the murder thriller action films that aren't too corny or too serious. Probably the 70s for me. The 70s were a very seminal time in American film, and there were so many good things happening and so many changes happening. I would say, things like Godfather 1 and 2, The Conversation, and Apocalypse Now, the quartet that Coppola made just then. And then there's other movies I love, science fiction movies like Rollerball and Logan's Run, and you have movies like Rocky and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. There's so much good stuff in the 70s. So much good stuff. Clinging Mars says, why do people obsessively go after Doomcock, Nerdrotic, that Star Wars girl, and their audience? I count myself as one and one of yours, and it's not very welcoming to your fellow PGS members. Yeah, I don't know, man. I have to tell you. I mean, I go on shows with I've been on shows with, obviously, Gary. I like Gary, and I certainly like that Star Wars girl and their audiences. And I've said before on the show, Doomcock's playing a character. I mean, he believes it's some of it, sure, but he's still playing a character. I don't understand either. I mean, people, I guess because they're negative, I would imagine. But so what? But I think that's the reason. Alexander Wilson says, releasing Tenet at this time when you had top 10 metropolitan areas like D.C. that couldn't open theaters was asinine. Restaurants in D.C., which can have people dine in, said that their attendance and revenue is tanking. Releasing Tenet was a mistake. Alexander, I feel absolutely 100% the same way you do. It is absolutely a mistake. 100%. And they're paying the price, which is kind of a bummer. And you're absolutely right. Alexander Wilson continues on and says, I thought Snowpiercer, even though it had an American actors in it, was to me an Asian masterpiece. Your thoughts on it? I like Snowpiercer a lot. I think it's great, crazy, weird dystopian science fiction, also based on a manga. Yeah, I like it. I think it's cool. It's really interesting. What a cast. I mean, come on, Tilda Swinton. It's great. Good stuff. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kind souls from across the 28 known galaxies, I'm sorry I'm cutting this a little short, but I really am. I don't know why my head is just throbbing, and it's hard to concentrate. I can't concentrate. Don't worry, I don't have a tumor. It's nothing like that. I think I'm just tired. Anyway, I will be back tonight with Elizabeth. We're going to be talking about Molly's Game on Whining About Movies. Speaking of Aaron Sorkin, what a movie that is. I love that film. So I'm going to bring this to a close. You know more about the film festival now. The first international intergalactic, the first annual intergalactic film festival. That's what we're calling it. See, I haven't got it down yet. But remember, it starts October 1st through December 1st. You have 2 months to make a movie. Anyway, it's going to be a blast. So remember, first of all, I want to thank my moderating staff. I want to thank the Richard. I want to thank Robert Pariso. Haynock is here. I don't know who else is here, but Robert Pariso, did I already say that? And Greg Smith, I think, might have been here. Either way, I want to thank my great moderating staff, including Mike Bodden. And I also want to say that if you want to go find the Richard on the Post-Geek Singularity Facebook page and look him up, tell him I sent you. Go watch the Zoom parties, join in, have some good times. And if you ever want to be a graphic designer, join our poster competition. You can be a judge as well. And we're only the competition starts October 1st and goes to December 1st. So that's amazing. Anyway, let's see, what more can I say? I guess that's it. Remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And I'm sorry I'm cutting this a little short. Again, it's tough. It's tough for me to concentrate. Maybe I just burned out early today. But anyway, I'll be back. I will not be on the John Campea show tomorrow. By the way, Az and I, Heel versus Babyface, and I had to postpone our 6 of 1 show this week because he was feeling under the weather. We will be back with It's Your Funeral next week on his channel. So there is that. And so that's it. End of Robservations, episode 515. I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you all for the generous support of the channel, whether it's tips, super chats, or especially writing letters and now making films. My God, it's going to be a fun time that is had by all. So, with that, I say thank you very much, and as always, have a better day.